I got some cool info on the first event too. So I know you have
What's
to
that?
run. I know you're gonna have to run Shell afterwards, but I got some good info on the first event, and I'll be getting a lot more info next week.
Very sweet.
Yeah, I got a kid to pick up from work.
So Peg Bundy, you look more like Peg Bundy than Peg Bundy looks like Peg Bundy.
Wait, I brought necessary props too.
I'll just do this a lot.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, ow.
The look isn't bad. Hey, Cindy, welcome. Welcome
Hi.
to our Halloween edition of the 3-View Mirror. Wait for a couple more people to join in. I think I got decent topics today.
I can't wait.
A little obtuse.
But
I think I'm getting where I want to go.
I've always loved Halloween. And I got my nails done, and you know what? I am Peg Bundy on the inside, I swear, because this is like what I get done with my nails anyway. And they totally go with Peg Bundy.
They work. How you doing? Good to see you, Red. Welcome to the Halloween edition of the 3-View Mirror. Got a couple in studio.
Yeah.
Luna just joined in. Good evening.
If you're new to the podcast, this isn't how we typically dress.
Oh, I don't know. I'm kind of digging the stash. This is like 14-year-old version of me.
What I do in my private time is none of your business, Chris.
Cindy says she got done with laundry just in time. Perfect. Well, as you can tell, we're not in our usual outfits or the way we normally would look, but we thought it would be fun since this is the final episode before Halloween to join in costume. So I'm coming at you, if you don't know, as the immortal Tom Selleck in Magnum P.I. We got Peg Bundy here sitting in for Shell. And which nerd from Revenge of the Nerds are you exactly, Chris Clues?
I mean, you can pick one. I always liked Lamar and Poindexter the best.
I think you look a little less like Lamar than you might have wanted.
I mean,
Peg Bundy, I agree, Kevin. Peg Bundy is spot on.
Thank you.
But again, it's just the only thing I remember from Tom Selleck, whether it was in Friends or on Magnum P.I., he just always would do that.
Well, Magnum P.I., he would always say, my little voice inside was telling me.
Yeah. I don't know that I ever, we're going to get distracted here. I don't know if I ever saw somebody asked about the Detroit baseball cap. It's ordered. It just didn't get here in time. I was going to try to put on a backwards ball cap, which is actually a Mickey, but it's the right color. And I thought maybe I'd get away with it, but it didn't arrive. Peg, you're missing your ciggy. Did Peg Bundy smoke?
Oh, yeah. She always was. You know what else is not missing, though? Trashy shoes. I should be sitting at a bar stool with my leg kicking like this, like sitting somewhere with the cigarette. Yes, but yeah.
Well, I'd like to might as well get started. Welcome to the 3-View Mirror.
Cindy thought you were Captain. Cindy thought you were Captain Lou Albano.
You're gonna kill me, but I don't know who that is.
Oh, what?
What?
Wrestling in the 80s, and he was in the Girls Just Want to Have Fun video.
Oh, okay, I know who that is. Yeah, I can see it, I guess. This, but his would come down to here. Yeah, I cut it a little short.
Wait, and for our audience, though, let them know that's real.
Yeah, no, this is a real mustache.
It's real. That's not a fake. That's awesome.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. When I grow out a mustache, I look like an ice cream truck driver. It's like this little thing that's like.
Nope, real. If you watch my most recent videos, you would see that it was a full goatee up until about 25 minutes ago. But to the horror of my daughters, this is going to be on my face now for the next, 9 days for Halloween. They're like, seriously, you're going to, I'm like, it is what it is.
Sonny
Take
Bono.
my Gen X shirt away because I can grow a mustache. Ooh, Sonny Bono. This is the gift that keeps on coming. I can be multiple different things, I guess.
You don't know who Sonny Bono was? No, they're taking your Gen X card away because you didn't know who Captain Lou Albano was.
Ah, got it. No, of course I know who Sonny Bono is. So at any rate, Welcome to the Three View Mirror, your weekly dose of all things 70s, 80s, and 90s, aka Gen X, where we discuss pop culture of the three best decades in the history of time. But it's not just about talking about random things, although on the face of it, it may seem like that. We actually have more to it. Hidden somewhere within those three topics is a little bit greater meaning. There's a hidden connection between those three things that when you think about it, discuss it, ponder it over in your mind, if you will. Hopefully, by the end of the hour, you'll come up with it, or Peg and Nerd will come up with it. Either way, have fun, enjoy the topics, and chime in because you guys sitting in our live studio audience are the fourth host of our show. Your input, your content will make its way onto the screen and become part of the show that we push forward. My name is John Katrides, aka Gen X Jono, aka Magnum PI Tom Selleck today. And I'm joined by two of my closest friends. Guys, start with you, Peg.
I am today Peggy Bundy, of course. I don't think that anybody could not see the iconic Peggy Bundy. But I'm also Rochelle Oblak, better known as Gen X Shell, across my social media. So if you want to give me a shout out, go over and visit me over there.
And I'm Chris Clues, better known as Chris Clues, keynote speaker and author that focuses on lessons we can learn for life and work from 80s pop culture. And today I am also Poindexter from Revenge of the Nerds.
And this is the Three View Mirror.
A woohoo!
Is it? Why am I not seeing it?
Uh-oh. Is it playing?
It says playing live.
Okay.
That's bizarre.
Oh, ow.
There you go.
There it kicked in.
It's spooky season. We had some gremlins. And the 40.
All right. So today I am our host and I've got three topics. Our three topics today are Star Trek, the original series, 90s movie True Lies, starring Bill Paxton and Jamie Lee Curtis and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and superhero movies.
Okay.
Okay.
Superhero movies from any time?
Yeah, I mean, because that was a big part of our upbringing and it continues through to this day. One of the things I love about that topic is the big thanks to the Marvel universe, thanks to Marvel, superhero movies are at least as prolific in a lot of people's childhood today as Superman was in the 70s for us. Batman was in the 80s for us. The Avengers have kind of recreated that feeling. So I figured it could be a really broad discussion when we get to it. Kind of starting with going way into the past and what it looked like and into the future and what it looked like. And one thing that encompasses both the past and the future was Star Trek, the original series. Now, did you guys watch in reruns? Because I'll post it in my videos as being a Gen X thing, and boomers will jump in on me and say, no, that was ours. And I'm like, that's strange because I seem to remember wanting to watch it every Sunday night at 7 o'clock when it came on. So Enid came back with the Hulk. There is so much we can talk about when we get to the superheroes, for sure. But I want to start with Star Trek because iconic acting aside,
overacting,
underacting, a whole bunch, but just what it showed us as kids that I don't think any of us really believed we would actually enjoy as adults. But let's start off with your thoughts, Peg.
Well, it was not for me. I didn't watch it. I of course know William Shatner and I know his overacting kind of thing, and I remember Spock because it was iconic at the time. I did watch The Next Generation. I did watch that, but I didn't watch the original. For me, I watched Lost in Space. But the original Star Trek was not my game.
Yeah,
Chris, what did you think of Captain James?
I gotta say the same.
Really?
Even though I'm dressed as a nerd, I was not huge into Star Trek. I know it well because of being around pop culture. But if I was put on a Star Trek Jeopardy, I would come in last place. Beyond knowing the characters and also the cool factor of Star Trek that I love is and maybe I should have watched it more, was that they explored all these strange new worlds.
Mhm.
And that was kind of cool. Like that was something that was, I think, what was it, the 60s when it came out,
It
right?
actually was very short-lived.
Yeah.
Star Trek only ran a couple of seasons, but again, as we often talk about, seasons back then were much longer. So there were a lot of episodes to push into syndication. But the thing is, neither of you, as avid Trekkies, if
No.
I say Scotty, if I say Sulu, if I say McCoy, if I
Yeah.
say Kirk,
Yeah.
if I say Spock, if I say Klingons, you know more about a show you didn't watch than some of the shows you did.
Yeah.
And
Correct.
that speaks to how it permeated our pop culture. I don't know that you could list 15 characters from a show you watched. Greatest American Hero, name me 6. I mean,
Mm-mm.
there's shows that and you can't. But somehow this short-lived sci-fi show from the 60s made its way in and then found new life through us kids. And then we had the toys and the communicators and the phasers, and then Star Trek the Motion Picture 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine. I mean, hey, Doreen, good to see you. It's amazing just how far a failed show, it did not succeed, found new life through Gen X. Our generation brought it new life.
It said on there, I think someone in the comments said 66 to 69. Is that the years that it was on TV?
I think it was 2 seasons, end of 66, the beginning of 69. That sounds about right.
Okay, because
It was on much longer than that, but that was its original run.
At that point there, we were in the middle of the space race, and anything that had to do with space became extremely popular at that time. All the kids' toys, everything had to do with space. And I think that's what was happening in the world led to some of these television shows becoming iconic because we were fascinated with space. I had the opportunity to go to a museum one time, and I cannot remember what the museum was, but it literally had a catalog of all the different toys of the time that were dedicated, like you said, communicators and space age toys, and even space age appliances and things that were based on that space race.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. That is right around the time that
Mhm.
we were beginning to explore. And I mean, I don't know. I think space has always been fascinating because you even had like War of the Worlds, which was on the radio, and everybody thought we were being attacked by aliens. And so there is always that fascination. Uh, it is interesting, though, John, that you pointed out the pop culture, the influence that Star Trek has on even for people who really didn't watch it, and the theme song. I mean, even the theme song is something. If you hear it, even if you weren't a big Star Trek fan, you know it, and you can actually see the opening credits. I watched a few episodes, of course, just when I hear the first few notes of the song.
So the other thing about Star Trek was Gene Roddenberry had a different image of space in the future than a lot of things that was prominent at the time. You had Star Wars had one image of it. He had a far more utopian, positive image of the future. And look at the bridge of the Star Trek Enterprise. You had a black woman in charge as an officer of communications. That's both a woman, which was a throwback to the operators of the time because they were used to that image of a woman, but she had a role of authority as one of the main officers, and she was a black woman on the bridge, which in the 60s was groundbreaking. You had a Russian during the height of the Cold War with Chekhov on the bridge. Sulu, who was Chinese at a time when, I mean, he did everything he could to put on that bridge, not just aliens from different hypothetical fictional races, but actual different races that no way in hell would have been on the bridge of the same ship at any given time back when it was made. And they talk about our shows didn't have diversity and we didn't, but I just keep pushing back saying we did it because it was the right thing to do. We grew up in very diverse social media times, but it was our mass media that showed it to us. We just didn't make a big deal out of it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, and then all the different species that they came across as well.
And
not
Kiss.
all and kissed, yeah. And not all of those thanks, Peg. And not all of those species were bad. So where so many times, people go to another planet, and whoever's on that planet is somebody we have to go to war with and we have to fight. That wasn't always the case in Star Trek either. So, there were friendships and alliances made with other, whatever you want to call them, species, races. I'm not sure what they actually referred to them as in Star Trek, but I do recall that they wasn't everybody, they were friend and foe.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, and Joshua brings up that it broke social norms. The first interracial kiss on television was on Star Trek. Who'd have thought it? The other piece of trivia, speaking of interracial and kissing, a lot of people remember the green dancing alien woman on Star Trek. It's like one of the most iconic scenes. Kirk, he makes out with her, and it was actually Yvonne Craig. If you did watch Batman in the 60s as reruns in the 70s, Yvonne Craig, who played Batgirl, was that green alien in Star Trek.
Someone mentioned her earlier in the comments.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, someone did.
I missed that one.
Mm-hmm.
Roddenberry's main rule about alien makeup was you had to see the actors' mouths. I did not know that, but I guess it makes sense. So all aliens in Star Trek had to have mouths. How about the technology? Like we talked about toys. I had a walkie-talkie that was a Star Trek communicator. I had a more than one phaser. As they broke, I kept buying more. We constantly played Star Trek as much as we played Star Wars as boys. But those toys that we played with, the tricorders, that could analyze things, the communicators, everything but the phaser is basically right here. The holodecks from Next Generation, I've got a VR set next to me that comes close to simulating that. I never thought that in my lifetime while watching Star Trek, so much of that technology, even the iconic doors opening didn't actually open. That technology didn't exist back then. Two guys always were on the sides pulling ropes to open the doors in those scenes.
Mm-hmm.
That supermarket, common day, everyday technology that we take for granted that was so prominent on the show didn't exist.
Yeah. And since we're around Halloween, when you talk about the pop culture influence, I would only guess that in your neighborhood, if you have a lot of kids, there is going to be a Captain Kirk. There is likely going to be a Spock. I mean, I know in my neighborhood, even last year, we had kids that were Star Trek kids. So, and that says something about the influence of it from that long ago. I also want to mention that you mentioned about the aliens and they had to see their face. That's the practical special effects, the makeup.
Yeah.
It makes a difference to me. It does. And I keep saying this every time we have an episode, but I just read that horror movie Smile 2, if you saw the first one, but the second one, they used all practical effects. It's coming back. And I love that because I think if you go watch a Star Trek episode, you'll see it's pretty good. Like, the special effects are what they are for the time, but the practical effects are pretty awesome.
It took thinking outside of the box because if you ever watch documentaries, they talk about what they wanted it to look like. And then the people whose job it was went out and found a way to make it happen. The teleportation scenes in the early episodes were literally superimposing an image of glitter in water, and they would swirl the glitter around in the water and then superimpose that over the image of them transporting down. Thank you, Bo.
I knew you were going to highlight that. I was like, if he sees that comment, that's going right up. It might be pinned. It might be pinned in our podcast.
It's stuck there. I can't get that down.
I can't get it off.
It's just not going away. Oh, there it goes.
He's too sexy for his hat. Too sexy for
but they would film using toys. Like the ships were literal like models, scale models and stuff. And we still have William Shatner and Sulu, George Takei. It's still with us well into their 80s. And still have a place at the seat of pop culture. It wasn't too long ago William Shatner was doing, Priceline commercials. I think it's cool. George Takei still pops up every now and then. He's got a great social media following. The man's hilarious.
Yeah.
He's 90.
Wow.
William Shatner is 90.
Wow.
Good for him.
And he looks phenomenally. I mean, toupees don't gray, so I guess there's that. But a lot of people didn't know he wore a toupee back then.
Oh, I didn't know that.
In the 60s.
Now you're going to tell us how old he was in Star Trek.
Well, if he's 90 now.
Yeah, he would.
He was, 40 then?
54, yeah. He's
late 30s, 40.
Yeah, late 30s, yeah. I mean, maybe overacting is the key to a long life.
I think playing is the key to a long life, and William Shatner has played his entire life. If you follow him at all, if you know anything about him, the man is still got that child inside of him. He overacted and played it up and hammed it up. He wasn't actually in the pilot of Star Trek. Christopher Pike was the captain of the pilot of Star Trek, the original series. There was a woman who was Spock's role, number 1, and Spock was simply a science officer. And the pilot got picked up, but they wanted some changes, one of which being they didn't want the second in command to be a woman. They were okay with Uhura being on the bridge, but they didn't want second in command to be a woman, so they elevated Spock to that role instead.
Thank you, Just.
You got to post Doreen's comment here too.
You can't. I thought you should be able to hit him as well if I miss things.
I can't.
I can't.
No. You can. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Didn't want to miss that one.
Walter Koenig, that is the other one, is Walter Koenig, who played Chekhov, is still alive, but ironically and sadly, the young actor who played Chekhov in the movies passed away a few years back.
That was weird.
Tragic accident involving his Jeep, and just really, really sad.
Really sad. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, like, I reference the Big Bang Theory a lot, and I guess it's an appropriate day to do it for me as a nerd. But they reference Star Trek a ton. And, there were even dreams that Sheldon would have where he would meet Spock or Captain Kirk. And that brought it to, for kids who may not have been overly familiar with it, it integrated it back into a new generation. It just seems to keep going no matter what.
So Enoch brought up a fun fact, and it is spooky season. Michael Myers' mask is actually a Bill Shatner mask, and that's true. They were so low budget in the original Michael Myers Halloween movie that they basically just sent production out looking for something. And they found a William Shatner mask, and they opened up the eye holes, and they painted it white, and that was it. That's Michael Myers.
And turned it
inside out. I knew that, actually.
And they turned it inside out.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually knew that, which strangely enough is the weird things that you can catalog in your brain.
So yeah, he's even had an influence on Captain Kirk on arguably the one of the greatest, the most iconic horror movies of all time.
Yeah.
Well, and like you said, Big Bang Theory, Halloween, it permeated into pop culture. And that's really the crux of anything, is that we talk about there's nostalgia, but it's a very specific type of nostalgia. It's, well, gee, I really didn't watch that. And then we start talking, and 15, 20 minutes later, we can have a discussion because it permeated, there's no better word, it's way into the pop culture, into the lexicon, words we use, live long and prosper. There's even, you did this earlier, Peg, there's even an emoji that you can use that's this. So whenever you put up Star Trek, it exists. And jumping into the movie for a minute, if there's a dry eye in the house when Spock died during Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, which is the best Star Trek movie, I got to agree with Kramer. Some think that it's, Search for Spock. So it even made its way into Seinfeld. There's an episode where they discuss that. But it made you laugh. It made you cry. I love the fact that it was serialized in the way that you can watch the episodes out of order and it's okay. You can miss one because our parents didn't always let us watch. Where I grew up, Star Trek was opposite the Waltons. So if my mom realized that the Waltons was on, she made us change the channel. But missing an episode didn't mean we couldn't enjoy the next one just as much, because for the most part, they were self-contained. Every episode was its own little movie. And then Next Generation would have some story arcs, but they continue to do the same thing.
I think that seems to be, I never really thought about it, but it seems to be the way a lot of our shows were. You mentioned, The Greatest American Hero and such. They were like their own Quantum Leap, whatever. They were their own little, every episode, you could watch it in Golden Girls. Married with Children. You didn't have to watch anything in the series. It could all just be, and maybe that's what their success in syndication was. Now it seems like everything I put on Netflix, there's a cliffhanger to wait till next week.
Or God forbid, next season.
Or next season, yeah.
No, it absolutely helped it in syndication. Now, some things like Greatest American Hero, there will be, again, his powers were more understood as the show went on. But I can watch Chips out of order. I can watch Dukes of Hazzard out of order.
Or
Whether
Magnum
it's
PI.
Roscoe or Enos.
Yeah.
Enos.
Amos.
What?
The other cop's name was Enos, right?
You want to hear the
You didn't ever watch Dukes of Hazzard?
Oh, no, I did. No, I didn't. I just didn't know. I don't know any that name, but no, you just reminded me of like the corniest joke that the corniest Star Trek joke ever.
Oh no.
Okay.
Let's have it.
We have terrible jokes anyway. So, what does Star Trek and toilet paper have in common?
I don't know.
It's got to be something with Uranus.
They both circle around Uranus in search of Klingons.
Brenda says if it weren't
Oh
for the
my God.
costume jewelry, which tells me you're Peg Bundy, I might think you're dressed as Jordan.
Do not ever say that. Those are dirty words.
And here we go to end this segment. John says, I thought this was the Three View Mirrors live stream, but obviously I've stumbled onto a reunion of 80s recording stars.
I must not have been a very successful one.
Oh God. No, if it was in true 80s style, you would have been the most successful one. If you know what I'm saying. Do you know what I'm
saying? Too.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on.
We're
going to jump to topic number 2, which was the 90s. And we've talked about the different movies that like Arnold Schwarzenegger was in, and over-the-top adventure and action movies. And he was the penultimate action movie hero of the 80s.
That was a word.
I've got a calendar that I've been trying to like put things into. I noticed you've noticed it the last couple episodes.
That was impressive. Good work.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But he took a turn in the 90s and was opening up to different movies, and even I think late 80s with Twins. And we all of a sudden we started to see Schwarzenegger doing things a little different. What I loved about, well, there's so much I loved about True Lies, but what I loved about it is it kind of showcased him as the action hero while at the same time poking fun of him as the action hero. Jamie Lee Curtis, Bill Paxton, great writing, awesome script, funny as hell. One of my favorite movies of the 90s of that genre. What did you guys think of it?
Absolutely loved that movie. That's a rewatcher for me. I could watch it over and over again. I thought that the action was just enough and that the storyline was perfect. Everything. Jamie Lee Curtis did all her own stunts in that. Like that was actually her hanging at the end when she was screaming, hanging from the airplane or on the rope
Really?
at the end. Yeah, that she did her own stunts in that movie.
All right, I did not.
Or at least that stunt right there. That was actually her hanging there when she was flying across. I can't think of was she under a helicopter?
Chris?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of True Lies, and the 90s had so many great action movies with ensemble casts, and it felt like all of the characters, even Tom Arnold's character, like all of these different characters came together and they created these bigger than life action movies. And I think that's, for me, when I think about 90s movies, that's where I land, is that there were these bigger than life action movies in the 80s, but it was centered around one person. To your point, Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Wesley Snipes. I know I'm missing one there, but you had these, it's centered around them. And then there was people. In the 90s, it was like these great casts and then just explosions. And I loved it. And a clever script, and a really clever script. So that's what I think about. I think of 90s movies is movies like True Lies, ensemble action movies.
And for me, you'll know that some of my favorite movies are made up of small scenes that put together and to create a great movie. True Lies had a ton of really great small scenes. Mm-hmm. Bill Paxton, when he's being the pretend spy and, giving Boris, calling Natasha, and they had these code names when he would call her house, and just made her feel not like this small housewife, but had a greater importance. And then juxtapose that with him sitting, peeing his pants when Arnold Schwarzenegger finally gets a hold of it. The dance scene with I mean, come on. She went from being good. Yeah, that's it. Exactly. And then as we're laughing at her,
Dude.
within like 5 seconds, there's this switch.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, she's not dancing funny anymore. And you're like, holy crap.
Yeah, dance slower, he says. You know, yeah. And then suddenly we're like, whoa! And then her body, by the way, kick-ass body. She had kick-ass body.
Yeah. And then there was also the scene, and I can't remember exactly when they're in the bathroom and Tom Arnold, and they're like, there's like a conversation. I can't remember the exact scene, and I should, because it was the scene that made me laugh the most in the movie. But yeah, I mean, Bill Paxton, man, that was a loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
God, you look so much like Peg when you just did that.
What'd I do?
You're like, mm-hmm. I was shocked that there was never a part 2, because you come up to the feeling that like Boris and they're going to be a team now, that she can do this. She's proven what she can do. I really thought there was going to be a True Lies 2 where the two of them become the did she lick the bedpost? Sorry, she licked the bedpost?
Yeah. She was being like, she was trying to be like sexy and things and whatever. And yeah, she was, I remember that.
I don't know how I forgot that part of the scene, but I really thought if any movie was going to have a sequel, and the fact that this was successful, I really thought there would be a part 2. Now, part of it, if this is just my thought process, Jamie Lee Curtis hated having to get ready for this movie. What she went through to make her body look like that was beyond ridiculous. And after this movie was over, she was done. She very soon thereafter stopped, basically starving herself, working out ridiculously, the hair dye. She just was done. She said what it took, and then partly regretted it because it created a stigma of what a woman's body should look like at her age. Look, she did it. Everyone should do it. And she's like, no, everyone shouldn't do it because it took a ridiculous amount, a team to get me there, a dietitian, a personal trainer. It was ridiculous. And she didn't like what she portrayed in that scene.
Well, I mean, she looked great before that. I mean, Trading Places, like it was, she's still, even without all of the craziness when it came to the diet and working out that she did. Did you also know that Charlton Heston had a cameo in True Lies?
No.
Where was he at?
He played, if I remember correctly, it was a guy with an eye patch. Maybe somebody knows the name, but I only think he was in a scene or two, but he played some guy with an eye patch. And yeah,
I don't remember that.
Yeah. Yep.
I'd have to go back and watch it.
This isn't a poker face. Charlton Heston isn't the connection. I really didn't know that.
Okay. Well, it would make sense because, Star Trek, I don't know, maybe.
He could have been in Star Trek.
We'll come back to that.
He was the CIA head, okay, says JTR.
Right. Yeah, thank you. Yep, I knew he was in it. Just couldn't remember what it was.
But the movie really did have everything. Everything from huge gun battles to an F-14 or F-16 at the end. And I just again, we talk about it all the time, that a lot of what we see happening today owes its origins to the 80s and 90s. This movie, at the crux of it, was about female empowerment. Mm-hmm. The Star Trek, in a large sense, with Uhura, major female empowerment. Where we are today, I think, unfortunately, people forget that a lot happened to get us here. And instead of looking back on the past and diminishing it and saying, oh, it was misogynistic, it was sexist, it was all these isms, there was a lot of good then that we lived through that created today.
Because change isn't an overnight thing. It is paved by the way, and you stand on the shoulders of the people before you. And so any changes that you see today started long before.
It also had a massive budget for the time too.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Well, the Harrier jet alone, that's what it was. Would have definitely cost a bit.
I think it was like over 100 million, which 1993, 94 when it came out, right? 93, 94. That's a lot for that time.
Wasn't a Harrier jet what they were going to give away with the Pepsi thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a whole documentary on that.
I know. The dude,
I
like,
saw that
where's my jet? Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
And
I
they
forgot
offered the
her
kid all
mom was-
kinds of money. They offered him all kinds of things to go away. He wouldn't go away. He's like, no, I want my jet.
No, I want my jet.
I forgot her mom. Yeah, that bridge was blown up. I believe it was in the Keys because I'm down here in
Really?
Florida. I'm pretty sure it was in the Keys. Yeah. Somebody just mentioned. I totally forgot that her mom was Janet Leigh, Jamie Lee Curtis, who was in Psycho.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, how's that for a
totally
Halloween
forgot. That was
connection
Cindy.
during spooky season?
Yeah, Cindy just mentioned that. That's pretty cool. Nice pull, Cindy. I totally forgot that. Yeah.
I don't see the family resemblance. Maybe it's because I just remember Janet Leigh in black and white in the shower, and that's about the only place I can picture her in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't Janet Leigh also the one in Birds? Or no, is that not her? Who was in Birds?
I don't know.
Who was in
I don't know,
Birds?
but I don't like watching birds because birds freak me out anyway.
Do they really?
Somebody in the audience will know it.
We
I
have
can't.
like this unspoken contract with birds that we leave them alone, they leave us alone. But if they decided en masse that they wanted to fuck with us, it would not end well for us. I mean, just think about it. If they just like attacked us on the way to our cars every day, I don't know. I'm just glad they behave themselves.
Well, they are dinosaurs after all.
They are.
But, I mean, I'll take birds over spiders. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, I'll take a bird.
There's a spider in my house.
I'd rather have a spider in my house than a bird.
No.
No.
I can get rid of the spider a lot easier.
Nope. Not going near it. Burning the house down.
And Toady Curtis was her dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. God, yeah, that's wild. Yeah,
So-
I'm glad you picked this movie out because it is like it now. I want to go watch a ton of these like 90s big action ensemble movies. Armageddon being another one, like just so good.
JTR let us know that bridge, by the way, was slated to get demoed and Hollywood took care of it instead of the taxpayers.
Yeah.
So basically, because I was thinking the same thing in my head, wow, they actually destroyed a real bridge. How the hell did they get to do that? And JTR, the serial killer, CEREAL killer, answered the question for us. Again, there's our fourth host coming in and carrying their weight. So talked about two topics, both of which apparently a minor hidden connection really helped display the concept of female empowerment in pop culture. The third topic today, superhero movies, actually does exactly the same in so many instances. We grew up with movies like Christopher Reeve's Superman. We migrated to the 80s and Michael Keaton's Batman. And today we get to have superheroes like She-Hulk and Captain Marvel, Wonder Woman, which was a very successful female lead-led superhero movie. They've literally become ingrained in our pop culture. Started up with us as kids reading comic books and made their way to the big screen. And I got to tell you, for me, as the original nerd of the group, I learned to read because of comic books. And when I got to see that image visualized for me on the screen and Christopher Reeve, I was like 7 or 8. Was it 77 when that came out?
I don't remember.
Which one?
Superman, the motion
Original
picture.
Superman?
I think it was 77.
That sounds right.
Sounds around. So, yeah.
In any case, seeing Christopher Reeve rip open his shirt, have the iconic S shield there, and go
right now.
What's that?
All I can think about is Surge in Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh.
Going, this is not sexy. What is this?
Dude, when he was running and he finally, because it took forever for Superman to enter the picture in Superman the Motion Picture, but when he finally did and then goes flying up to catch Lois Lane in that helicopter, that is an iconic moment in my childhood. 79. Thank you, JTR. Did you see it, Shell?
Oh, of course I did. I watched all the superhero movies. But I didn't grow up on comics. For girls, we were more like the little golden books were our versions of, we didn't read the comic books. It wasn't a thing.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm having flashbacks. We've talked superheroes before, but I think we mentioned cartoons, and you tried to bring up the premise that My Little Pony was your superhero cartoons growing
that's
up.
right.
They'll start on me today. I brought a special guest to this, by the way, at the very end here.
Okay.
I have a special guest.
I just want to premise this whole discussion by saying we will not try to sell a My Little Pony movie as a superhero movie.
No.
Okay.
Care Bears were superheroes.
Oh, God.
I didn't.
Fight me on it.
I didn't read. I didn't read a lot of comic books either. But for me, like we talk about superhero movies, and at least in the modern time, I don't know. My favorites tend to be the ones that weren't the kind of iconic characters. So, I love Guardians of the Galaxy and Deadpool. Like those tend to be the ones I gravitate towards. If I had to pick I don't know, if I had to pick one that was more in the, I guess, in the common vernacular, I'm going to try to use big words like John. I would say Iron Man or Thor. Probably Thor was my favorite. I just like that he smashed stuff, like kind of like Hulk.
Well, I mean, we say the superhero movies, and I mean, I do want to stay on topic for the movies for a minute because it was a rare treat for us to see them. And, once the Superman series ended, and it ended kind of badly. I mean, 1 was great, 2 was better, 3 did okay. And then it got real low budget, and Richard Pryor came in and it got funny. And then the 5th one, he's fighting this low budget nuclear man. I don't think anybody but me saw that, Superman 5. I mean, it got so bad that it kind of ended superhero movies for a while. Somebody mentioned Helen Slater was in Supergirl in 1984.
That's right.
Which was supposed to relaunch the entire enterprise. Christopher Reeve couldn't be brought in under contract negotiation. They decided to send him off planet during the movie and revisit it in the sequel that never happened because that was kind of campy. The Supergirl movie wasn't taken seriously.
I mean, not to sound sexist, but even as a female, I kind of prefer a lot of times whenever I was a kid, I preferred the male superheroes. I mean, that's what a superhero was. I'll be honest. I mean, I tease around a little bit with other things, but that's what I envision in my brain when you do say superhero. Not now. I mean, now we have other superheroes that are females that are, added in and things. But Supergirl at the time, I don't think she was ever going to be super successful.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Supergirl felt like they were taking the Superman story. And again, I don't know how the comic book history of it, how far back Supergirl goes. Maybe somebody can tell us.
She goes back to the 50s.
Okay. But it feels different than Wonder Woman. Like Wonder Woman felt like she had her own universe.
And Wonder Woman. I forgot about Wonder Woman. Oh, yeah.
But it was her own story. It was her own origin story. It was her own universe. There was nothing on the male side like Wonder Woman. So she owned that space, and they could develop her and develop that universe without having to rely on any other history. I mean, obviously the others, they come together at some point, but that I think is maybe why Wonder Woman was successful when some of the other female superheroes up until recently maybe weren't. I'm just guessing.
So Supergirl is basically Superman's Robin, Batman's Batgirl. There was a tendency in comic books of the day to try to allow the readers, which were largely children at that time, to enter into the comic book. So as we're watching these larger than life figures, we can see ourselves in it as well. So Supergirl was an attempt to bring young girls in so that they would be able to relate. Robin was there for that's what they were. So you're right. Wonder Woman was the superhero. Wonder Girl was her sidekick. So it was tough to have a sidekick running the show on their own.
Wonder Girl?
Yeah, Donna Troy.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know that.
If you remember the original Wonder Woman series, they actually brought Wonder Girl in under the name of Drusilla to come into play, and she actually was in the actual show too. In the comic books, her name is Donna Troy, and she's a completely different character. But yeah, every superhero. Captain Marvel had Captain Marvel Jr. They had these sidekicks because it made sense for somebody who's battling crime and facing death on a day-to-day basis to have a 9-year-old go along with them.
Like Scooby and Scrappy Doo.
Yeah. Oh, I love Scrappy Doo.
Not like Scooby and Scrappy Doo.
It is like Scrappy Doo.
Robin is not Scrappy. Batgirl is not Scrappy.
Scrappy was better than Robin. But you know what's actually interesting?
And Deborah Winger, thank you, Cindy, thank you, a couple people, actually played Wonder Girl. That was her debut.
I do remember her as that. I can picture in my mind.
Yep. So we have Deborah Winger. And again, someone's mentioning Yvonne Craig, who our first topic was Star Trek. Yvonne Craig was also in Star Trek. So lots of little connections popping around.
Yeah, I think it's interesting though that I know some of the superhero movies back in the day would tackle the kind of how the comic book writers wrote the characters, which is that they had flaws, but it wasn't till recently that they really explored that more. I think a lot of times they touched on it in some of the older movies, but it was more about the saving the day and the kind of the optimism of that particular superhero, and that we needed them to save whatever it was that they were saving, versus they're, yes, they're superheroes, but they're flawed and they have these backstories, these origin stories that we now are beginning to learn, which I'm not a fan of. It feels like they've just vomited superhero movies on us over the last 20 years. But I do kind of like the approach to some of them and how they show the origin story and how they're flawed and they're not perfect. And, here's why. Like, I do like that aspect of it, that they go a little bit deeper than just the cape.
And I guess I forgot about, see, when you say superhero movies, I forgot about Wonder Woman and I forgot about the Bionic Woman. I mean, these are superheroes too.
Female empowerment.
Yes, yes.
It's not the theme. Yeah. But it runs through all three of these topics. And I did not intend for that to happen.
Yeah.
Was there Bionic Girl too?
In one of the movies, it was actually, I did a topic on that. What was her name from the beauty pageant movies?
For
the FBI agent who pretends to be a beauty pageant contestant.
Oh, Sandra Bullock?
Sandra Bullock was a Bionic Girl.
Oh, she was? Oh.
She was. That was her cinematic debut. She actually played an Olympian who undergoes an accident and needs to have bionics. And she's in one of the spinoffs, the Bionic movies that they did.
Underoos. Somebody
I just saw that.
That's awesome. I had Underoos. I had Spider-Man.
What's that?
I had
Spider-Man. I never had Underoos.
Underoos were the greatest.
They were the best. They were awesome.
And yes, I'm Magnum PI. Supposed to have a Detroit Tigers hat. It has not arrived yet.
Magnum PI.
But I'm loving the mustache, dude. I think this is a Magnum mustache.
It is a Magnum mustache. The hair is maybe Magnum with bedhead.
Yeah. Well, did the best I could.
The mustache is awesome. Don't get food.
The other thing I loved about the superhero movies, when I look at Superman, the motion picture, is the fact that there was nothing about the movie other than pure and total entertainment. It had no agenda of any kind from any side. They weren't trying to teach us a story. They weren't trying to teach us a moral lesson. These movies were simply go to the movie, enjoy the movie, and that was it. A lot of the stuff in the 80s did have a moral lesson for us, because God knows nobody else was teaching us any lessons as kids growing up. So TV and movies had to do it. But these movies took a break from that and said, just enjoy it. And as we watch it, looking back now, it's so, and it's funny because there's some inappropriateness. During the Superman movie, a girl runs into her apartment after seeing Superman, saying, "Mommy, I saw a man fly." And then without even seeing it, you just hear the mom saying, "What have I told you about lying?" And then the little girl starts crying. And we all laugh because, oh, she just got beaten. But it's like, it was okay. Superman just caused a girl to get beaten.
Wait a minute. Somebody thinks you're Higgins.
Higgins?
No.
The hair is more Sean Penn. I'll take that. Listen, it's just the only curly haired wigs they had at Spirit were mini afros. And I'm like, that's certainly not going to work. Anyway, so as kids, we always played superheroes. We would come up with these huge plots. I would literally have a bath towel on my back with a safety pin, and we'd go running around the front yard with capes on, having fun, and we all had our favorite superhero. Do you guys who was your favorite superhero?
I don't know.
Isis, Wonder Woman, Bionic Woman.
Oh, I can say this. I can say the one that influenced me the most as a kid would have been Superman, because when you just mentioned the towel, the cape, the everything, the idea of wanting to fly, all of that, and I think that was the first superhero movie that I really saw ever, truly, that maybe I remembered and truly had in my brain. We used to, when we were small enough and we had a nice large couch, we used to put our feet way, way, way back into the couch, and our knees they weren't long enough, and we would pretend like we were flying because we would, hang out over the edge of the couch and things. So I would say that was the most influential for me, but I don't know that I have a favorite, because each one has an aspect of everything. I know today I like to watch Deadpool.
Okay.
Yeah, I love Deadpool. Mine was Thor. Although my mom, when she was still here, she would tell the story of when I think I was 3 years old. This is what we talk about with our parents not paying attention to us. And I was in the bathtub, and she came in, and the door of the bathroom was open, and I was gone. And it was the middle of the day. And she looks out of the window, and I'm running down the sidewalk in our neighborhood in broad daylight, buck naked, with a towel around me, saying I'm Superman. And one of my neighbors had to scoop me up, and she's like, returned me and said, "Naked Superman is running around the neighborhood." And so Naked Superman was my nickname for a few years, so about 6 or 7.
Oh, that's funny. For me, I always liked, I don't know. I loved the sidekicks. Like, I didn't want to be Batman. I wanted to be Robin. I thought it was cool because they were younger, and I could relate. I could see myself in it. I liked Captain Marvel Jr., who evidently was actually Elvis had this thing for Captain Marvel Jr. That was his favorite superhero. If you look at his costuming, he basically was doing the Captain Marvel short cape. He literally had all his Vegas costumes made to look like superhero costumes. But bringing the discussion before we finish up into modern day, now everyone has a superhero that they can pick. If we looked at that Avengers movie and the cast of characters, everyone is represented. It is so easy today for kids to point and say, I want to be, for me, Paul Rudd. I want to be Paul Rudd Ant-Man, not because he could get big and small and have superpowers, but the guy's going to be 70 and look exactly as he did at 25. That's a superpower I can get on board with.
He's a vampire. he and Mario Lopez are vampires.
Oh yeah, he does look young too.
Yeah. What about, before we wrap up? But I always think about Naked Superman. Is that like Captain Underwear? Yeah, I guess it is like Captain Underwear.
Oh,
yeah. I would say, for me, when I think about obscure ones too, like the cartoons, I don't know why I always loved the Wonder Twins, but for some reason, Wonder Twin powers activate. And I always was hoping that they would turn into something cool. Like, I don't know, a dragon and a grizzly bear. And instead they'd be a bird and a bucket of water. I'm like, come on, man.
So Jan's power was to be any animal, and Zan could only be water or some form of water, whether it's ice or vapor. Now, in the comic books, I will say that, I don't know if it was Marv Wolfman, one of the writers did a serious take on the Wonder Twins and turned them evil. And Zan, who we just always laughed at because he was always just a bucket of water with eyes, in one scene turns into water vapor, enters into a person's body, and then turns into ice spikes.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and all of a sudden you're like, holy shit,
yeah.
Zan can actually do stuff.
I like it. That's better than what they did. A bucket of water and a bird. I'm like, come on.
Lame-o.
Have some creativity, man. You're talking to 7-year-old kids. Make it cool.
Enigmatic is talking about Paul Rudd's power and saying all of us Gen Xers have it.
That's right. Yeah, we do.
So, any other ideas on superhero movies? I will say best Batman for me is and always will be Michael Keaton. Best Superman is, as much as I like Cavill, Christopher Reeve just did something about that part. Owned not the action hero part of Superman, but the soul of Superman, the inside of Superman. He played it straight. But anybody else trying to play it that straight and be that Boy Scout with the cape, it would come across hokey. And somehow Christopher Reeve just nailed it. It didn't come across hokey.
Like he was wearing a unitard, you know what I mean? And he did not, and he looked sexy. You know what I mean? Like he was like you're sitting there and you're like, he's wearing a red and blue unitard and he looked awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, Summer School. Great. That's a great pull. That if you have not seen Summer School and you're on this podcast, do yourself a favor and find it somewhere. It's a great underrated 80s comedy, Summer School. You do remind me of Mark Harmon in Summer School.
Yeah. Well, no, the kid in the movie I think they're talking about, I can see too. But yeah, I see Mark Harmon in this too. Yeah. The 80s and 90s gave us Handyman.
Chainsaw was his name. Yeah.
Adam West will forever be Batman. Yeah, for me, I get it. I see that, Cindy, but especially in the movies, especially because nobody wanted Mr. Mom to be Batman. He got a lot of bad press before he came out because they're like, you're making Mr. Mom Batman? That just was like unheard of. And he turned public sentiment around.
I don't know. For me, I think Christopher Reeves far and away is the greatest Superman. He just encapsulated everything you want Superman to be. But for Batman, I mean, I loved Christian Bale. I thought he just had he had that darker side to him. That's, maybe it's because he also did American Psycho and comes into Batman with this darker feel, but that for me, and then the Hulk, I mean, Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno, I just don't think anybody, and that's why it's just never really worked in my opinion. Cause they took two guys each that played that one part of it. And it worked so much better than having one person, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Lou Ferrigno did it with no CGI, man. It was just him.
Just him.
Yeah.
Hulk smash. Yes, please.
Hulk smash is right. All right. We've had 3 topics today. The first was Star Trek, the original series. The second was talking about the 1990s movie, True Lies. And we finished up with a broad discussion of superhero movies, going all the way from the 70s into the current day with the Avengers movies, Ant-Man movies, Deadpool, Wolverine. You guys probably aren't seeing a very obvious connection, I'm guessing.
No, I'm really it's really awkward with your shirt buttoned all the way down right now.
Dude, I do what I can for ratings.
Like it's almost to the landing strip.
No, it's buttoned right here. There's plenty of buttons. Jack Nicholson is the Joker. Yes.
Oh man, I don't, off the top of my head, I have no idea.
Yeah, see, I was making the connection with Jamie Lee Curtis that the actual connection, especially because of the William Shatner mask and Michael Myers, was that the actual connection was Halloween. The movie, the thing, and then I'm trying to think that there's some connection between superhero movies and the movie Halloween, but I don't know any connection.
Well, there's a kid running around in a Superman costume during Halloween, I'm sure.
I mean, or a William or a Star Trek character running around in the Halloween movies. That was the connection that I got was Jamie Lee Curtis and Halloween. And that the actual connection is Halloween, but I cannot connect the superhero movies.
What if we took away superhero movies broadly and said the Ant-Man movies specifically? Does that help give you a connection?
I only saw Ant-Man like half of it one time.
What did you do to the other half, Peg?
I
just slip upstairs with Al? Was watching Paul Rudd on the big screen too much for you?
No, I don't know. It was one of those things where I'm like a lukewarm superhero movie person, and so I'll watch them if it's like I watched Deadpool, but the other ones I'm like lukewarm. I just leave then, and I'm like, it's good, but I'm leaving. I'll walk out. Let my kids watch it. Somebody else said about the 80s has-beens stars.
Yeah, I see it. Porn stars of the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Shatner mask for Michael Myers.
Yes.
Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. Paul Rudd's movie debut as far as filming a movie was Halloween Curse of Michael Myers. He starred in that movie in 1995. Clueless came out and was released first. And even though he filmed the other one first, Clueless came out first, completely overshadowing as like the first Paul Rudd sighting. But Paul Rudd played Tommy Doyle, who was going back as a kid to the original Halloween movie, and they basically just he literally starred in the movie. And that's the superhero connection, because I wanted the actual connection today to be Halloween, but I didn't want it to be super, super obvious. And I wanted to have like the discussions we had individually, because I really wanted to talk about those three things too.
Those three things are awesome. They really are. I had them. I just could not get that third thing. I would never have made a connection with Ant-Man.
Paul Rudd was the superhero, and he was also in Halloween. Jamie Lee Curtis was in True Lies, and she was also in Halloween.
Yes.
William Shatner's mask from Star Trek is what was in Halloween.
Halloween.
So all three connect right back to the movie, to Shell's point, Halloween. Which, growing up, I was all about Friday the 13th movies. I was all about Freddy Krueger movies, and Nightmare on Elm Street. I think Hellraiser is not talked about enough. I loved Poltergeist. I loved Amityville Horror. But the one that chilled me to the bone, and I don't know why, was Halloween. That movie scared the crap out of me as a kid. Maybe because he would come out in broad daylight. Like, you thought, as a kid, whenever the character that was in danger got to a public place in daylight, they were safe. Right? That was the rule. Okay, there's people around and it's daylight, they're safe. Even as kids, when I was a kid and I was home alone and I was scared, I'd go outside and I'd be around people and I wouldn't be scared anymore. Michael Myers would show up while the kids were trick-or-treating in the daylight. And whether it was a throwaway costume or it was him, it just put huge cracks into that feeling of safety. And I remember as a kid, it bothered me. I'm like, he can't be there.
Because it was a nighttime creepy thing prior to that. I guess so.
I think Halloween, what was so scary about Halloween was, I think, how simple it was in terms of the killer and his movements. And it felt like it could happen. Like Friday the 13th with the hockey mask and coming up out of the water and the kid drowned and then comes back to life. And it turns out that's not actually who was doing the killing, but there's some supernatural aspects of Friday the 13th. There's supernatural aspects of Hellraiser. Michael Myers, if you take away The Exorcist and Amityville Horror, which were more about like possession, Michael Myers was this person you think like that could just be a person who's insane. And that mask, as they said, when I was reading up about Halloween, John Carpenter was talking about how it looked so soulless. He looked soulless with that mask, but it was so simple. And when she's in the room and you just see him sit up and turn.
Oh yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
To this day, that still scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And I know
Halloween was probably the first horror movie to set certain rules. Like, the Virginal Wonder makes it through to the end of the movie. Jamie Lee Curtis made it through to the end alive because she was a good girl, and they make fun of that later on in Scream. And Friday the 13th took it to whole new levels, because the minute you had sex or smoked pot in that movie, you were done instantly. They weren't messing around. Skinny dipping was a mortal sin punishable by death. These were our movies.
And that was the funny thing was we watched them when we were like 8. So
I also think Halloween, because it was in a neighborhood, to your point, John, like it was, Nightmare on Elm Street was also in a neighborhood to a certain extent, but it was supernatural. Like there was this different aspect to it, but it was just a guy, ended up being a kid who grew up and gets out of a mental institution and starts killing people again. But still, like, it was in a neighborhood. And it was somebody coming into your home, not as a camp counselor, but actually in your house. And it's kind of like that movie that still to this day, When a Stranger Calls, where
coming from inside the house.
And I was thinking too, when True Lies, that there was other connection there too, because Tom Arnold was in True Lies, and then Tom Arnold was also in the penultimate movie that made fun of all of the scary movie. The Scary Movie made fun of all of the scary movies of the past. and he was also in that. And, so at first I was thinking maybe that was the connection, but I couldn't connect them to Star Trek either. So somebody in there said something. Oh, Halloween 3. Listen, Halloween 3 was probably one of the worst scary movies I think I've ever seen. I swear, besides, like, that was worse than some of those B movies. Like, you put on a Halloween mask and your face turns to maggots. It was just stupid. It was
but it
dumbest.
wasn't supposed to be. It's not part of the Halloween series, and they didn't do a good enough job letting people know. It shouldn't have been Halloween 3. It should have been something else.
Yeah,
I never saw that one.
Yeah,
it was dumb.
Season of the Witch. Yeah,
I think it's Halloween 2 where like they're all the fake jump scares because everybody starts wearing Michael Myers' mask as a Halloween costume. So everywhere you're looking, you think it's him and it's not him. And that movie, I'm just like, enough already. Like, just come out and kill me. You're gonna just do it.
Okay, here's a question for you based on our 3 topics. Which character is more iconic?
Michael, Jason, Freddy.
Captain Kirk or Michael Myers? In terms
or
of
Christopher Reeve Superman.
Ooh.
Make it all 3.
Or Superman. Who has had influence on
as soon as we throw Superman in, I gotta go Superman. The other 2. Do kids know who Michael Myers is? Do they know who Captain Kirk is?
Well,
I'd say Michael Myers.
All over social media. I mean, especially this time of year, people do the dance. They're dancing as Michael Myers. They're doing pranks, and yeah.
I'd say Michael Myers for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And kids today, you go by a house, it's still playing that Halloween theme song.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they may not necessarily know what that's from, but they instantly connect it to spooky season. They instantly connect it to Halloween the season, if not necessarily Halloween the movie.
This was an amazing set of topics to connect together, honestly, because to come to one of the greatest Halloween movies, let alone greatest scary movies, iconic scary movies, is to me, bravo.
I was going to do Clueless as our 3rd topic, but then I didn't want 2 90s movies.
Clueless.
Because that would have still brought in Paul Rudd.
Oh, yeah.
Friends, we always talk about.
Yeah.
Could have brought in Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
Friends could be the 3rd topic on almost
For
any
everything.
topic. It is the Kevin Bacon of our show. It can be 2 topics in Friends, and it can always connect.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I'm going to make Married with Children a topic one day.
I watched it pretty religiously.
I did too.
Or Beaches. Beaches always connects
Beaches.
for John. Yeah.
I did Beaches as a topic, and you didn't get it.
That was early on.
That was early.
Actually, I did Bette Midler as a topic.
I think we've all evolved as our friendships, and now we can we know.
For a while. I mean, you didn't try to sell My Little Pony as a superhero. You did mention Care Bears last time too, and I seem to remember you being like, it shoots stuff out of their chests. They're superheroes.
They do. But see that there was that. Never. I'm not even going there. I'm not even saying nothing. Not even saying nothing.
So, and I also like when we can talk about things that will educate us on the pop culture. So the fact that Paul Rudd's first movie acting in that made it big was a Halloween movie, I think is pretty cool.
I'm gonna have to go look that up and see what. Just even get an image of it, because I know the movie.
Exactly like the kid in Clueless. It was exactly the same time. He was 25, I think, in both.
I'll have to look. And not to change the topic, John, but I told you I brought something for you today.
Uh-oh. What is that? Oh,
Warning.
Oh, God.
So for those who may not have been with us last week, Rochelle was talking about a Halloween tradition where she grew up in the backwoods of Pennsylvania with her uncle, dad, and aunt, mom, about how they would shuck and throw corn kernels at houses.
Yes.
And within 5 minutes of the end of the episode, I literally found evidence that it is in fact a thing in rural Pennsylvania.
It's a real thing.
And corn. It was a thing there.
And but you know what? It's also
animal husbandry. That doesn't make it right.
No. And you would get your thumbs and I just shot a piece off over. You get your thumbs and you would do this until you had enough corn in your hand. Yeah. John looks like a corn star.
A corn star.
That's the code name for it, isn't it? But no, I brought this just to prove to you, because anybody that's in here, my husband called it tic-tacking. Look at those eyebrows going.
Those eyebrows have a little extra in them.
Little extra.
I was hoping
Little something.
So that was the topics today.
I want to point out too that real quickly, Orange said howdy from Western North Carolina. So we're glad to hear that you were online there in Western North Carolina, and I hope that everything is okay in your area. We know you guys got hit hard, really hard by Helene, and as someone who lives in Florida and has been through a lot of storms, just want you to know that we're all thinking about you guys there, and I'm glad to see that you are online and participating. It's great to see.
There you go, Shell. Orange also says we corned in Iowa too.
See, and someone said don't mess with rural Pennsylvania.
I wouldn't if you paid me.
Although you kind of look like you might have been in rural Pennsylvania back in the late 70s, early 80s with that look, John.
No, so a 70s stash, to be clear, was what we called a dirt stash. It was much creepier and usually a little thinner.
Like Joe
This
Dirt.
is the Tom Selleck full stash that he wore all the way through Friends. Once again, this is an homage to Friends because Tom Selleck was also in Friends.
It's a porn stash.
This is not a porn stash.
It is a porn stash. Ask the audience. They'll tell you it's a porn stash.
The porn stash was thinner.
That's what I would call that's a porn stash.
So Tom Selleck had a porn stash?
Nowadays, that's what I would call it.
I guess. All right. Well, this is devolved. Well, Orange, hopefully you get to head back if that's in the plan. God, just hopeful that all the areas affected see some modicum of relief in the days that come ahead. Hopefully some return to normalcy, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're all looking for people to come back, tourism to certain towns. So if any of you are looking for a place to go, there are plenty of places in Western North Carolina. I have friends that I grew up with or were in college with that live out that way. If you're looking for a place to go and spend a few days and spend some of your hard-earned money, be a place to go right now.
Well,
oh God! If I go out tonight in rural Pennsylvania, I'll still see John's costume.
It'll be for real.
On that note, I'm going to run out. My Ferrari's parked outside.
You got to post what Sheila put up because we did this too. And it's a really bad joke, but we did it as well. And we were on like
that one.
Yes. But we would like act like we were throwing something in front of the car.
That's awful.
Yeah. We corned cars too. We'd get up on the railroad trestles and throw the corn at the cars.
That's god awful. You could have
done like that.
You'd be ashamed of yourself. All right, guys.
I've had fun. I am ashamed. Not as ashamed as your mustache, but I'm ashamed.
Dude, the horrible part about this is I have to wear this on my face from now till Halloween night.
The Ron Jeremy
we filmed this a week ahead of time. I might thin it out a little. Oh my God. Are we done?
Yeah, we're done.
All right, guys. Thank you for being here. Thanks always to our in-studio audience, our fourth member of our cast. We will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. 3View Mirror at 5:30 every Friday night. John, a.k.a. Tom Selleck, a.k.a. Magnum PI.
And this is Peggy.
And Chris Clues. I want to also mention that we might be, just be on the lookout. We might be coming live to a town near you at some point in the spring.
Yes.
So stay rad, everybody.
Take it easy, guys. Peace. Why didn't something is here we go. Here we go.
Here we go.
I'm not giving up. Here we go. My God. Later. Oh. That was fun.
Yeah, that was good.
It was awesome.